I am so happy to have the two of you here with me today to record this episode of the Unmeasured podcast. Jamie, Paige, welcome to the Unmeasured podcast.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.
I'm so grateful that we get to move our ongoing Voxer conversation to this recording today. And I know we're going to probably share a lot about how we support each other and how we connect from afar. But before we get to that, I would love to share a little bit about each of you for anyone who might not know you already. Jamie Mendell is a life coach and business coach and is also in graduate school to become a licensed therapist. She helps women transcend their inner blocks that keep them from stepping into that next level version of themselves and life they've always longed for. Through her mindset and lifestyle driven coaching method, she helps her clients elevate the way they see and treat themselves so that they can embody who they need to be to design their dream life and business in the present. Jamie, I'm so happy that you're here.
Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait.
Yes, and Paige Schmidt is a Christian life coach who transformed her practice in 2023 to bring God into the heart of her coaching. With over 12 years of experience, she learned that true transformation comes when we invite God into the center of the changes we want to make while falling more in love with Him along the way. Paige helps her clients grow closer to God and align their lives with His will, leading to greater joy, peace, and purpose in their everyday lives. And Paige, I'm so happy that you're here too.
Thank you so much. Those were so great. I was like, Jamie, that's amazing.
I love getting to share both of your bios, especially because I feel like there are things in your bios like Paige, the transition in your business that you have made over the last, year-ish, more than a year now. And Jamie, you going to grad school to become a therapist, things that we've like talked about when they've been happening in real time. And I'm just like in awe of both of you. It's really cool to see all these things coming to fruition. So today's question is all about friendship. And I'm so excited to get to explore this conversation, the three of us together. This listener wrote in, I moved to a new city last year and I'm really struggling. I miss my close friends I left and want to stay close long distance. And I also want to make new friends here. I don't feel like I'm doing either particularly well, and I feel so lonely. Any advice? Okay, so many reasons why I feel like this is just a great question to discuss with both of you. Number one, we all live in different places. Paige is in Arkansas, Jamie's in Florida, I'm in Ohio, and we have known each other for a really, really long time because of, similarities in our business and sort of growing up in this entrepreneurship, solopreneur online business world. But we don't live in the same place. And over the last couple of years, we have gotten so close and really supported each other from afar. Number two, you both moved to the places that you are currently living in the last handful of years and have done such beautiful jobs like putting down roots and really embracing a new season in your life after a move, leaving really strong communities to go to these new places. And so I know that you're going to have just incredible insight on that part of it. And then lastly, because I respect so much the things that you have to say and the way that you see challenges. And so I'm just really excited to get to chat about this with you today.
Yay. I can't wait.
When you think about your moves to Arkansas and to Florida, did you feel similar things to this listener? Did you feel like it was a little bit of a bumpy transition, both in terms of your, previous connections that maybe were in person before, and also making new friends?
You want me to? I'll go first. Okay.
Go ahead.
So I have now done 3 big moves that I would consider big moves with Marco, my husband. We've been married for 10 years. We have moved an ungodly amount of times this year's like so many times. But 3 of those moves have been big moves to the first one was 2 hours from our hometown where we both grew up, which felt huge for us because it was close enough to go back and see people, but it still felt far enough that we weren't doing everyday life things with our people anymore. Then we moved to Reno, Nevada, which was like 9-10 hour drive from our hometown. And then we moved back for a while. And then we moved to Arkansas, which now we can no longer drive. And we haven't been back in almost the year that we've lived here now, which is crazy how fast that time has gone. So what I'll say is the first move was the hardest, hands down. It was like 8 or 9 months. We didn't know, where we didn't know pretty much anyone. And the connections that I had, I was so grateful for, but they were not deep yet at all. It was like, do you want to meet for coffee? And it's like, yes, yes, please. I want to meet you for coffee. I want to talk to someone face to face. But also this person doesn't know me and they don't know my history. They don't really know who I am. So while I'm so grateful for the connection, it still doesn't give that like same sense of just like going to a friend's house in your super casual clothes and like jumping on the couch and just being so fully yourself with them. So that was the hardest. And what I will say is the thing that helped me most in that time in terms of the struggle with moving was talking to another friend who had moved. And she shared with me that she did not start enjoying her new place until she stopped trying to make her new place like her old place. And
I
it just,
love that.
it hit me so much because I'm like, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create the same routine. I'm trying to like go to the gym at the same time that I used to. I'm trying, whatever it was. And I'm like, I'm in such a new place. And the other thing she said was just to like, let this place be brand new and approach it like it's brand new and let the place show you what it has to offer and like just approach it. So just curiously and everything shifted for me then. And I started enjoying the place more. And so that had me like going out to coffee shops and things more. And then it had been 8 months and still no like deep connections. And so I just did the thing where I just started talking to people. And I ended up making like some of my favorite friendships, like such good friends there. And it ended up being so great. And then I've learned in each move. So our second move, I was like, okay, before we move, I'm going to meet some people first, like on our trips visiting there. And I literally would like message people on Instagram and be like, I saw you tag this place. Do you live here? Do you like it? I know I sound crazy. I promise I'm normal. And literally one of my best friends, I was just in her wedding. I met that way over Instagram before we moved there. And it's so funny whenever we tell the story about how we met. She's like, Paige reached out to me and I had to trust she wasn't some creeper on Instagram. And then coming to Arkansas, we actually moved here with quite a few friends who had all like relocated. And so we already had a bit of a built-in community, but it's still the same thing of really learning to put myself out there, invest in people, not be afraid to say hi. And then I definitely have more to say on like the way that relationships change from where you moved from. And I don't even mean it in a negative way. It's just like maybe mirrored expectations where it's like, oh, it's fine. We'll stay close. We'll FaceTime all the time when you're leaving, or I'll fly back all the time. And it feels like that and you want that, but then it doesn't happen. And that's okay. And that's just how it is because I can't be getting on a plane every month to go back and see friends, right? And so I think a lot of that is accepting, like a process of acceptance of I am in a new place and this is okay and this is good and I want to build a life here.
Oh, Paige, thank you so much for all of that. I just had a memory when you were sharing. I think one time I visited you in Slow, and maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly, but you tell me. I visited you in Slow, and we went for a walk with like a group of people that you found somewhere. And it was like a group of people who were all trying to meet people and make friends. And it was like a hiking group or something. Was that a thing? And everyone was so lovely.
It was from meetups.com. I don't even know if I'm sure it's still a thing. And there's like different interest groups that you can join. And San Luis Obispo, where we had moved in California at that time, had one called New Girls in San Luis Obispo. And so I was like, yes, that's me. I'm going. And same thing. It's like the first few times it felt like these scheduled times to go and meet people that you didn't really know. So you were grateful for it, but it still didn't feel deep. But I just kept going. And again, I've been in so many of those girls' weddings now. It's like the closeness does come, but it takes a while. I remember the first moment that I truly felt so close to these girls is when they surprised me on my birthday and did like a surprise birthday dinner. And I showed up and I was just supposed to be getting dinner with one friend, and they were all there. They had like planned it, taken time out of their day. They were smiling when I walked in, and I was just like, oh my gosh, these are my people. It was just like such an act of love. And like, we love you and we see you and we want to celebrate you. That was when I was just like, oh, it's like I could rest and be really fully myself in the relationship.
The closeness will come is such an important reminder, because to your point on expectations, I think when you come from a place where maybe you have really close friends, really deep friendships that you've taken time to cultivate and they've grown over the years, maybe even over your whole life, depending on, where you're moving from. And then you move to a new place. When you think about friends, you think about those friends. It's like you think about these really deep friendships, and then you meet people and it's not that right away, because how could it be? But it can sometimes feel like, oh no, I'm missing something, or am I doing this wrong? Because the new friendships don't feel like the old friendships, but like of course they wouldn't. Jamie, how was your experience, like different or similar to Paige's when you moved to Florida?
Yeah, I love so much of what Paige shared, and I think the biggest thing that she just said that I totally agree with is it really does take time. That's probably like the biggest lesson I've learned. So I was in New York for 10 years and had like such a close group of friends. I mean, lots of groups of friends, like never felt lonely, always had just like so many pockets of friends because I grew up in Connecticut. So I had friends from growing up. I had friends from high school. I had friends from college. I had friends from work. Like I had business friends. It was just, I never thought about my friendship, like friendships being like any sort of an issue in my life. And then my husband and I he was my boyfriend at the time, but we moved to San Francisco. And that was like, I remember being like, oh my gosh, like I have to make friends now. And it was like a whole starting over. And I hadn't done that since like ever really, because I went through school and college, and then I went to New York and all my college friends were there. Like I didn't really have to practice those skills. And I remember it being a big focus of mine and thinking about it a lot. And like, I wouldn't say it like, I mean, yeah, I was like struggling with it at times and just sort of reckoning with the fact that it was such a thing I had to do and like focus on, and like, how am I supposed to do this? And then after 2 years, we moved to Florida and I had to do it all over again. So I feel like I have a lot of like, I've been going through what this person is going through for years now. And it is really hard. Um, I think like some of the biggest takeaways that I have is it really does take time. And I think it also depends on your personality. I mean, we've talked in here in like our chat about how one thing I know about myself is that it takes me time to open up to people and to feel comfortable with people. I'm not someone who like immediately feels comfortable and like opens up and like wears my personality on my sleeve. Like it just takes me time. And so I think it's something that I've had to accept about myself, that like sometimes it takes me longer to have those feelings of real comfort around people. And that's okay. And so I think it's also just like something to think about for this person, of like their personality and like how they, if it's taking time, it's okay. And it might just take them a little more time to feel like that comfort and that warmth with people. And then I was just taking a note of something that I wanted to remember to say. Another thing that I have learned is that there's like all of a sudden when you're making new friends, you feel all these like fears of rejection. And what if I reach out to somebody and they don't want to get coffee with me, or like we had coffee once and they don't want to do something else or whatever. And I think that there's a lot here that I've had to like work through around, like when I was in New York, I never once questioned asking a friend to go do something because I had such comfort and love and acceptance. But then when it's all these new people, you're like, all this stuff can come up. And so one thing that I found that's helped me a lot is to try to be like, try to put myself out there in a way that I want to with friends. Like I love having people over my house and like entertaining, but it feels vulnerable to like ask everyone if they want to come over. But that's something that I wanted to and I would enjoy doing. And so one thing that's helped me, like, I think create strong friendships here is doing the things that I want to do and like creating the environments that I want to create. And that takes putting myself out there to like initiate a certain plan or ask them to do something that I feel like would be fun. And so I think that's another part of it is like thinking about what would be like fun for you, like how do you want to hang out with somebody, and kind of like trying to put yourself out there in that way. So those are just like a couple things that, you know, I would share about the experience. And then I can also talk more about like Paige about the friendships that you're kind of like leaving behind and how to handle that too.
I absolutely love your point about, even though it is really vulnerable, inviting people to do the things that you love to do, because I also think that helps you in the long run create friendships that are more aligned,
Yeah.
where you're not just trying to sort of like fit into some persona that you think people would want you to be to make these new friends. But if you're inviting people to come over to your home and to hang out in that way, and they're not into that, then it's
Mm-hmm.
great to know that in the beginning before you invest lots of time in those
Right.
relationships. And then you're going to be able to find your people who really love and enjoy spending their time the same way. And I think that's something, that's something about like in-person friends. You do life together. And so you want to have those deeper connections with people who enjoy like investing their time in similar ways. And so what a great way to find those people. I love that, Jamie.
Yeah, exactly. I think it helps you figure out, yeah, like who's kind of in alignment with the types of things, the way you want to be spending your time, the things that you want to be doing. And I think it helps you become closer to people when you're willing to put yourself out there and be like, hey, this sounds really fun. Let's go do this. Or I don't know, it just makes it more enjoyable, and you just kind of can find your people a little bit easier that way.
Where are some places that, if you think back on any of your moves, I mean, obviously we talked about meetups.com, and I'm wondering where are some other places that you have met friends. For me, when it's been so long since I've moved, but when I moved from Chicago to Columbus, I started going to Studio B, to the bar studio, and I met so many incredible women there who now, even though Studio B isn't around anymore, are like many of my closest friends here in Columbus. And that was like such a great place for me to meet people. And I'm wondering where are some places, as you reflect back, that you were able to make, some of those initial connections.
I love that. And I've, the couple times that I've gotten to like come and stay with you and visit you, we've gone to Studio B, and I could totally see how that's a place where friendships can build. Everyone's like very close there and very kind to each other. And I think they did like quite a few events and things too, right? So participating in that stuff. Mine has been, like I shared, meetups, even Instagram. Literally before I moved to Reno, I just looked up on Instagram like the geotag of Lake Tahoe, people hanging out at the lake, or people at coffee shops. Like I loved going to coffee shops and posting photos of my coffee. Or even I was looking for other female entrepreneurs. And so they would post a picture of themselves at a coffee shop with their coffee and their computer. And I'd go to their profile and he's like, oh, she's a photographer. She works for herself. I'm going to reach out to her. So that for me, church has always been a place, or getting in a small group to like get closer to people. Um, I mean, some of my closest friends in San Luis Obispo, I also just met. I was at Starbucks, and this group of girls came in. They had all just finished working out, and I was sitting at this big, like, communal table where other people could sit down. And they sat down and they started talking about something. I think they were talking about meal planning at the time. And at the time, I was really food focused in my blogging. And so I literally was like, "Mm, like, here it goes." And I leaned over to one of them and I was like, I just finished writing a blog post on meal planning, and like completely put myself out there, did not know what they were going to think, if they're going to be like, cool, have fun with that, and go back to their conversation. But one of the girls who was there went on my blog later and like read it and somehow found my phone number, or maybe I gave them my phone number or something, but she called me and I remember I was babysitting for someone else who was at my church. And this again was me just trying to put myself out there and be like, you're so nice. I'll watch your kid go on a date night with your husband. You know? And I remember while I was there, I got this voicemail that she looked at my blog. She's like, wait, you have an actual blog that's an actual business. I'm a photographer. Do you want to go get coffee? Like she got excited that we were both entrepreneurs. And then this friend, it was my friend Asia. She just happened to be like the world's best connector to every other human ever. And so she just would invite me to everything. And I started meeting people and I just started having the best experience there in San Luis Obispo. We just had so much fun. It was like a huge group of girlfriends and we would just do so much, but it all happened from having to put myself out there and like face that fear. And in fact, right before recording this podcast, I was on the phone with another friend and she was talking about, she's also a coach, and she was talking about really helping people make choices from a place. We were talking about a verse that says like, God didn't give you a spirit of fear. He gave you a spirit of power and love and of a sound mind. And so she talked about when we're having like fear and anxiety, like really going to that place of having a sound mind and making choices, making all our choices from a place of just love and power, empowerment. And we talked about not making choices from a place of fear. So like an encouragement to myself, if I could give an encouragement to this person and to myself when I was first moving, it's like, let this new place be a place where you're really practicing making choices out of empowerment, strength, love, and letting it be a place that helps you work through like that fear. Because there's so much fear, like Jamie said, fear of rejection. You're putting yourself out there. I remember thinking, this feels like dating. I'm thinking to myself, like, should I send them another text? Should I text them and let them know it was so fun? Do you want to do it again? You know,
It
and it
does
is
feel like dating.
it does. It's like very vulnerable, but just do it because some of the people will be lovely, but like they'll fall off, and others of them over time will become much closer. And the other note that I wrote down as we were talking about this is like, let yourself have beginner friendships and just let them feel very beginner and just accept that and keep showing up and investing in them and learn about other people's interests and engage with them in those interests. Like just keep showing up and loving them and let it take time to build. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It just takes time, as Jamie was saying, for people to feel really safe and like, oh, we're so close. I can just pop by your house now, or I can just show up, in my PJs or whatever.
Have you guys heard that thing? It's like it takes 200 something hours for a friendship to feel like close. Have you guys heard that?
No, I haven't, but I
Something
love
like that?
that.
Me neither. I haven't heard that, but I love it.
Yeah, it's something about like it takes some amount of hour. It's like 200 hours or something like that for you to feel really comfortable with somebody.
That
And
makes sense why we all feel so comfortable with each other.
yeah,
So we probably done well over 200 hours.
totally. But I
Yes.
think it's so true. It's like it just takes repetition and it takes time, and you just naturally feel like closer and closer to people. And like Paige said, some people are going to follow it. Like it's not going to click like that with everybody. But I think like the more that you have that repetition or just see people, it just feels so different over time.
Mhm.
I think some
Also,
places,
like,
oh, go
oh, go
ahead.
ahead, Jane. I was gonna say also like for me, it always feels so important to me that people know some of my history because I feel like it makes me feel like they know me as a whole person, not just like the version of myself that I am today. And that takes time too, because you don't just want to meet someone and be like, let me spend 3 hours telling you about everything you know about me so that we could be friends, right? It just takes time to let people get to know you, your history, your family, how you grew up, what's happened to you, what's been great, what's been hard.
Yeah.
And so that 200 hours thing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I believe in it.
Mm.
I think some of the places I've gone to create friendships, in San Francisco, I went back to school when I was out there. And so I met a lot of friends through like this nutrition school program. So, and then I was a part of like a co-working space for entrepreneurs. So I feel like it was very much about getting involved in things I was interested in. And then, I mean, same thing Paige is saying, like getting involved in things I'm interested in. And like, that's really where your people are going to be, because it's like, that's half the legwork, is just you have similar interests, whether it's like a fitness studio or whatever. And then here, a lot of my friends have come through like a mom's group. So, just, I think it's just like following your interests and like what kinds of things you want to be a part of. And then you're going to naturally find people there that are interested in the same things.
I love that. What about some of your relationship changes? Like you both briefly mentioned in the places that you were leaving. What was that like for you? What was hard about that? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been definitely, I remember in San Francisco, that was harder for me because it was like the first time I was away from my close friends. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was in a different time zone and they were all having kids and everything was changing. And I was like, it was like such a sad, it was so sad in some ways. And like, I really had to learn. That was like the biggest time in my life where I was like, friendships change and like, that is okay. And they're going to ebb and flow. And what I've seen with that is like sometimes these long-term friendships that you're going to have for a long time, like you're going to grow apart, you're going to come back, you're going to grow apart, you're going to come back based on location, like you having kids at the same time or not at the same time, like different things that you're both going through that are either very similar that can bring you back together, or you guys are just kind of in different places, and that's okay. And really like allowing for that, because it's not like a bad thing. It's just the nature of these long-term relationships where people are moving and families are growing and there's just a lot happening. To Paige's point before about, staying in touch, I found that like a lot of my friendships from before, um, it's not about like frequently talking as often, but it's just sort of trusting in the relationships that they're there and they're so deep and they've been so deep for so long. And so you guys know, like my college girlfriends, we go away, we don't talk a ton. We're not the type that like have a group chat that's like we're telling each other everything that's going on. We're just too busy. We have like 10 kids between the 4 of us, and it's just there's so much going on, and that's not been our personality to like be on our phones texting all the time. But we see each other at least once a year for like a girls trip. And then we try to get like our families together. And it's like nothing has changed when we're together. And they're still like my closest, deepest, they know everything about me type of friends. And so I think it's also not being so attached to like, we have to communicate this often, or we have to FaceTime all the time, or we have to talk all the time. But is there like other ways to connect that like keep you together based on the nature of the friendship, if that makes sense? And then there's some friends who like, I don't know, it's just kind of like learning what within those friendships, like how you guys stay connected. And it's going to be different with every friendship.
I think that's such a good point, that it's so different with every friendship. Because I have some friends that are, I say really good about, but it's probably because this is my preference. They will just like call on a whim. And I know it's just very casual. It's like, hey, what you up to? How you doing? And or like FaceTime me with their kids. And I know their house is chaos and my house is chaos because Sayla's running around, and it's just mutually fine. Great between both of us. And I love that because it feels so natural and easy to stay connected. And it could be very infrequent. It could be, sometimes once a week for a month, and then it could be once every 3 months, but each time, as Jamie's saying, it feels very natural. And then I have other relationships where the preference is like scheduled ahead time to talk. And that works too. Sometimes that can overwhelm me because I feel like a scheduled phone call it's harder to plan to me than like meeting someone for dinner, because it's like, well, if I schedule a phone call on Friday night and then all of a sudden all my in-person friends are going out to do something, you know what I mean? So it's challenging for me, but I try to make time for those sometimes too. But I think also finding the balance that works for you. For me, something that has been hard, and I think it's gotten a little bit better with each move, but not ever all the way better, is I'm always in like such denial. I don't know what else to call it, about how the relationship's going to change. Like this last move, I moved away from one of my like just dearest friends. It felt like we did everything together every day. And so in my mind, I'm like, it's like I cannot grasp the amount that something's going to change before it actually changes. So I'm like, I'll be back like 4 times a year. It'll be fine. We'll FaceTime every week, like FaceTime me every day if you want. And that just, it's like I move, we do it for a little bit, and then we just realize it's not realistic. It's also not needed. So maybe that's like a bright side of realizing it, as we realize like, oh, okay, this is not needed. We can talk like less frequently and we're still close, and we haven't seen each other yet, but like we will see each other. So for me, it's like it's a little bit of a grief thing. It's a little bit of just recognizing, I always have these like really high expectations for myself, not of others. I really don't have high expectations of others. I'm like, please just come see me when you can, and I will love that. But I never want anyone to feel that like pressure, right? But it's me working through my own expectations of, maybe I can't talk to people as much as I would have thought that I would. And that is okay. And with each move, learning that a little bit more and a little bit more, and just like being okay with it, getting comfortable with it, and staying in touch in other ways when I can. I have a few friends that we will voice text back and forth infrequently, but just sometimes. And I do love that because I can hear their voice. I know they can do it on their own time. I can listen on my own time. Sometimes it takes us days to get back to each other, and that's just fine. No.
I love a voice note for that reason, where you feel like you're almost sitting together having coffee, but you get to listen and or send it in like the little pockets that work for your day. And I think when you have friends in the same place, you're more likely to spend time in person together. But obviously, when it's a friendship where it's long distance, technology is the way to stay connected, unless you're, unless it's a time where you're traveling and getting together. And I find that it's harder to find those moments where, like, a couple of my like closest friends do not live in Columbus, and they all have a lot going on. I got a lot going on. It's harder to find a moment where like we can be on a phone call together. And if we even can, it's usually for like 3 minutes on the way to pick up a kid. It's like, wait, it's my turn in the pickup line, gotta go. And you'd like have to rush off those calls. So I love a voice note because it lets you respond in a time where you can like really be intentional, but also you don't have to perfectly like line up your schedules, which
Schedule.
just seems to be nearly impossible in this season of life.
Sam, something I feel like you do really well with your friendships that I know we've talked about and you've suggested to me before is like, if you're really craving that in-person time too, to just go for a day, to see a friend. I feel like you do this really beautifully with your friendships where like you won't try to take the kids and Tim. It's like you won't make it a whole big thing. You'll be like, I'm going on a Thursday, the kids are in school, I'm going to go for 24, 36 hours. And I remember we talked about this and you suggested that to me and I was like, yeah, I can go do that when I want to do that. And I think that that's also something good to keep in mind that, if you're really craving that connection with an old friend, like we live in a world where that's typically something we can try to figure out how to do. And like if you have, the childcare and the resources and all that stuff, but also just it doesn't have to look like a whole big trip. It can just be something quick. And like that could give you that dose of like that in-person time that you're just like so craving with your old friends.
I'm literally doing that tomorrow. I'm going to Lake Tahoe. Like it's like a 48-hour trip. I'm flying across, flying across the country, gonna go visit my friend Jessica, gonna meet her baby. And then I'm gonna turn back around and fly back. And I'm like doing it, on my own. I I absolutely love like a 48-hour getaway where it's just me. 48 hours is an amount of time that I can be away from my kids and enjoy it. I have found for me something about a third night away from my kids. Everyone's different. This is not me like judging anyone who is happy to be gone for 2 weeks, like no judgment literally at all. I've just found that for some reason, after like the 2-night mark being away from my kids, I start to miss them in a way that takes away some of like the pleasure of being away, if that makes sense. And so I love a quick like 48-hour getaway because I feel like I can totally unplug from my home life, fully be like present with wherever I am, thoroughly enjoy it, and then like get back before the like really missing my kids sets in.
Mm, that's so perfect. That's such a good reminder for me too. I'm just thinking about going back to California because, like I said, we've been gone almost a year, and in my mind, I'm like, it has to be a week long. We have to see this many people. That overwhelms me, so I'm not ready to plan it yet. You know, it feels so overwhelming to think
Well,
about
you
that
would have more
much.
people. You would have more people to see. Like I'm literally going to see, well, not just one person, it's like her family, but it's like one stop. And so I can imagine that if you're going back to a place where you lived and you really do have like such a solid community there, that it would feel more nerve-wracking. But what I will say is uh one of my best friends, Alexis, who moved away from Columbus to Denver, she does something really lovely when she's been back to Columbus twice for a really like short amount of time. And they send out a message to like all of their friends and they say like, hey, we're going to be at this place at this time. Everyone come and like meet up and hang out. And I've seen that work really well too. So I feel like if you can't make it out there for a week and can't do like one-on-one meetups with everyone, that just picking a spot and having everyone come to you, it seems to work so well.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, just like a mass gathering.
Yes,
Let's
Mhm.
knock this all out. We feel that when
totally.
we go back to Connecticut and New York, like I always feel like, oh my God, there's like so many different things and then people I want to do. And we try to do that too, where it's just like, let's see like this whole group at once. Cause it's like, even if you're seeing people just for a breakfast or something, it's so meaningful. It doesn't have to be like days that you're spending with these people to reconnect. So even just like catching up with them in person for a little while can go a long way.
It's so true. And I I just feel like I appreciate our connection so much, even though we are all in different places. We have a group Voxer chat. So each one of us uses Voxer with our coaching clients. So we support our clients on Voxer. And then Paige, I think it was your idea that we have like a years ago that we get into a group Voxer, and what was going to start as like business, sort of like co-supporting each other in business, turned into this amazing group chat where we get to come and like share and process all of the things that are coming up for us in motherhood, sometimes in business, just in life in general. And I get so excited when I open up Voxer and I have messages from either one of you. I'm like, oh, it feels like listening to like my favorite podcast. I'm like, time to listen to my favorite podcast. And I feel like I empty the dishwasher and I feel like I'm doing it with like a friend in the kitchen with me. And it's been such a wonderful way to feel really connected to you both. And just I feel so loved and supported by you in that chat. And so yeah, like Voxer's been such a wonderful tool for that for us, and I know also for us with our clients.
Yeah, I think this goes back to that every relationship's going to be different in the way you connect. And I think it's so cool that the three of us connect in the way we do over Voxer. It's just like such a unique setup and it's worked out so well for us because we are all busy and we have a lot going on. And I love that with Voxer, we can just come on there when we have a moment and share when we need to. And it's just, I don't know, it's been like the best thing. And so I think it's like another example of how your friendships are all going to look different in different like forums and in different capacities and different ways. And um, I just like I can't believe like what we've created in these last couple of years. Like we never thought that this is where it would all go, but it's just the best thing
Oh,
ever.
it's been the best. I also feel like and especially like this question being about long distance friendships with the friends that you do really want to stay connected to. I feel like it's taught me so much about friendships in like such a unique way because we're not all physically together. So there's not like a ton of like physical demands or expectations. You know what I mean? It's like we hop on Voxer and it's like, it's like, it just feels like we know everything that's going on in each other's lives. We can check in on each other and be like, how's that thing going? Or how was this trip? Or how's this? And then when things are hard, it's like, it's just like incredible how safe it feels to be honest with both of you and just no filter, like just say it exactly how it is and know that it's going to be met with such like love and support and listening. And I think we all feel the same. And then I don't know how to like voice this, but I've been thinking about this as I knew we were recording this episode, is I'm like, there's such a common understanding of each other's like circumstances and lives. And I never once feel like, oh, if it takes me 4 days to answer, I never once feel this pressure like, oh, they're going to be mad at me. You know, there's just such, I never feel like you guys are going to be mad at me for anything. It's like, there's just such love and understanding and compassion and care and support, and everything is encouraging and like with the intention of building each other up. And it's like so nice. I'm like, is this because I don't know. It's just so good. So it just teaches me one, that we have something so special, and it makes me wonder like how often do people like get this from their friendships, and it makes me think about like wanting to give this to other friends that I'm in person with, like listening and really asking how they're doing. And um it's so amazing.
I think what's also really neat about it is that, yes, we do have things in common. Absolutely. Like there are commonalities between us and like things that we can relate to, but there we also have like a lot of differences. And I think that we do live in a world right now that feels like very divisive. And what I think is so beautiful about our friendship is that we all come to this space with so much love and respect for each other that even if I was sharing something that maybe like I think or I believe or like a perspective that I have that maybe you two don't share, I would never be worried that you were judging me or that you were gonna like kick me out of our group chat or anything like that. You know, like
Totally.
there's so much love and respect. And it's honestly been, it's like given me a lot of hope that
Hmm.
like things do not have to be as divisive as they seem, that like you can have such beautiful, deep connections with people, even who have like different beliefs than you or different perspectives than you. And that is like one of my favorite things about our interactions is that I feel like even with sometimes different perspectives, I always feel like so connected to you.
Mhm.
Hmm. I always feel that too. Like we can each come to the table and share what we're going through and process it the way that we're processing it. And it's just met with understanding.
It's such a like it's such a safe space that where I feel like I could say anything. I could say something like really dumb or like ignorant or like something I don't know what I'm talking about or I'm working through or I don't whatever. It's like I can come and say something that's just so like real and raw. And I feel like there's never judgment. There's never like a it's just yeah, there's such like understanding and openness and safety in our relationship. And even when we are talking about things where like we may have different beliefs or different thoughts or different like upbringings around something. And I mean, we've talked about so many things in our chat and like there's just and some things that have been like difficult to talk about. Like we were talking about money recently and like had like
Mhm.
lots of money conversations and like that can be really touchy with friends and people who are have different money mindsets and backgrounds with that and I feel like there's never been a topic we've brought up where we haven't met each other with just love and openness and been able to have like really beautiful conversations about whatever it is that we're talking about.
When
Totally.
you
So,
just,
oh, go ahead,
oh,
Paige.
I was just going to say, when you just said that, Jamie, about like recently we are talking about money, I had the thought that in our group chat, I always have this feeling of like, I want to know how you guys view something. It's like this like broadening of perspective too. It's like, hey, how do you guys do this? And just widening perspective and like just wanting to understand each other and get to know each other, not change each other, but like understand each other.
I think that's something, connecting it back to the question for the episode. I feel like this is something that you can offer your friends who are not in the same place as you, right? Like you, however frequently or infrequently you connect, in whatever, way you connect, that making them feel safe and loved, and like really being curious about, what do you think about this, and like what's going on for you, just coming to those conversations and connection with a lot of care and a genuine desire to connect. Because I know there are so many moments where if one of us is going through something, we're like, oh my gosh, I just wish we were there so we could like come over and bring ice cream and sit on the couch, or come help with childcare or whatever it might be, things that you get to do when you live close to someone and they're going through something. Um, and that never stops us from offering support in the ways that we can. And for me personally, like it's just uplifted me in so many moments and been such an encouragement, and also just a space where I can come and kind of fall apart. And Jamie, when you were saying like we can just be really raw, we can be processing something, I never feel like I have to have it buttoned up when I like share it with you. And that has actually helped me to get it buttoned up, because I do have this space where I can be a little bit messy and figure it out and figure kind of how the pieces go together. And it's been our friendship and our space that so many times in the last, many years now have helped me to get through processing something. Whereas I never felt like, oh, they don't want to hear about this again. Or like they're going to think like, why hasn't Simi just like made a decision about this yet? But that you were always there to help me get to a place where ultimately like I could make a decision.
I think it's given us all an appreciation too of sharing things while we're in the process, because it's so cool and it's so refreshing, like hope filling, like every good thing it makes me feel so much less alone to see other people in process moving through something, like Jamie, even with you grad school, like we talked about it when you were first desiring it, wanting it, making the decision. Now you're like, it feels like so far through so many decisions that we've made. Like I remember being on a hike, opening up Voxer and being like, I have this crazy thing to tell you. We're talking about moving to Arkansas. And it was like you guys were the first people I got to tell. And it all started like unfolding so rapidly. And I got to share the whole thing with you. And so it's all I don't know, should we do this or should we do this? I don't know. We're making the decision. And it's so like makes me feel so much less alone in making decisions and big life choices, to know that this is a normal process that everybody goes through. And I feel so lucky that I get to like, hear your guys' processes. And it makes me feel like it's okay to be in process, which we're all in process all the time on something, right?
It also makes me feel like every time that either one of you has something like really awesome happen in your life, like Jamie, when you got into grad school, or like when you finish your finals, I'm like, I feel like I finished finals. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like such a great feeling. Or Paige, when you guys made the decision to move to Arkansas, I'm like, I'm moving to Arkansas.
I love that.
So funny, but getting to be part of someone's process, like when, like that sort of cycle is complete, you feel like, I don't know, it's very satisfying and fulfilling to be like a bystander.
Totally seeing it all the way through.
Yes.
I think it's like our emotional cycles. What do they say about movies? That movies, like watching a full movie, is super healthy for you because it takes you through this whole cycle of your emotions. Maybe that's what's happening for us. We're like, you're just processing the whole thing instead of just seeing a snippet. And so it feels very like full and real and authentic.
Well, we're so invested, I feel like, in each other's experiences because we're seeing all the behind the scenes of you know, the reckoning with something or the indecision or the fear or like, I don't know what to do. And then, so, you know, we're like with each other through all of that behind the scenes stuff. And so I feel like we're so invested in all these parts of each other's lives and seeing what happens.
It's so true. Thank you both for being on here with me today. I just loved hearing you share about your stories. And I know that the listener who wrote in the question, but also everyone who's tuning in today is just going to get so much from what you both shared. Thank you so much. I love you guys.
Love you so much.
Thank you.